Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking this evening.
AI infrastructure. And we're announcing that Reliance and Nvidia are partnering to build AI infrastructure here in India.
In a fireside chat with Reliance Chairman Mukesh Ambani, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang says Nvidia and Reliance will jointly build artificial intelligence infrastructure in India. Ambani says India and Indians will surprise the world with intelligence, just like we did with data. Jensen Huang highlights India's pivotal role in the global artificial intelligence and IT revolution, says Nvidia's AI innovations and India's thriving tech ecosystem are crucial drivers of this seismic change. Adds that just in 1 year, Nvidia will have nearly 20 times more compute power in India. FMCG companies say a shrinking middle class and an urban slowdown are among the host of factors that have hurt sales in the second quarter. Tells CNBC TV 18 that food inflation is a reality for the middle class, adding they expect urban spending to return as the government spending accelerates. Market veterans call the ongoing slump in the market a healthy correction. Ramdev Agrawal says earnings slowdown is temporary and expects the market to double in the next 5 years. Navneet Manoj of HDFC says he still sees some froth in small and mid-cap stocks. Sebi Chief Madhavi Puri Butt skips the Parliament's Public Accounts Committee meeting, writes to the PAC Chairman and Congress MP KC Benugopal at 9:30 this morning, expressing her inability to attend due to personal exigencies. Airlines in India continue to live through the nightmare of hoax bomb threats. Air India, Indigo, Akasa and Vistara say they've together received 85 hoax threats today. This takes the total tally to over 250 in 11 days. Sources in the government say social media platforms are not doing enough to curb the menace. Deutsche Bank remains hot on India, says it will deploy more capital in India, adding FDI flows into India likely to double in the next 5 years, calls the consumption of purchasing power in the country an important inflection point. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Israel continues its ground operations and aerial strikes in Gaza and Lebanon. 17 Palestinians, including children, were killed after Israeli missiles hit a school located inside a refugee camp in Gaza. Israel claims to have struck 160 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon in the last 24 hours. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken meets with Qatar's emir and other officials in a push for a ceasefire in Gaza. Nearly 25 million have cast their vote in the early voting in the U.S. presidential race. This includes Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz and his family, who cast an early ballot from Minnesota. The latest Wall Street Journal poll shows Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump having a slight edge over Kamala Harris. Odisha and West Bengal race for Cyclone Dana as landfall is expected around midnight or early Friday morning. Over 200 trains have been suspended. Schools and colleges remain shut. The Odisha government starts evacuating over 10 lakh people living in the danger zones. All of that and more coming up for you. But first up, let's take a look at the day's market action. Nifty and the sensex end the day with marginal losses. This after a range-bound session. So the Nifty closing at a 2-month low and the sensex clocked losses for the fourth day in a row. However, Nifty Bank, that was the outlier. It was higher by about 0.5% of 300 points there. That's the market snapshot for you. But market veterans that we've been speaking to are not worried about the recent slump in equities and call it a much-needed healthy correction. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, Ramdev Agrawal says the earnings slowdown is a temporary blip. He expects the markets to double in the next 5 years. Navneet Manoj of HDFC says he still sees some froth in small and mid-cap stocks, but adds that while there are some earnings slowdown being seen, balance sheets continue to be very healthy.
It is the healthiest possible correction and overdue correction, I would say. And even if a bit more, I feel it will be deeper the correction, better it is for the people, because the expectations were going wild. You know, some people are saying that I want only 2-3% monthly return, month on month, that too compounded. So, you know, that expectation was running wild, and once the expectations are way beyond, see, ultimately, even last 5-year return is just about 16% of the Nifty.
The next 25 years look even better. Notwithstanding this correction, and we can discuss more about it, I don't think that the last few days give you any reason to worry about the next 25 years. This was expected. This is a healthy correction. There's a pace at which the money is coming. And the best part is a large part of that money is coming in the form of SIPs. And the 24,500 crores is ticket size is 23 or 400 rupees per month per ticket. And that makes us very positive about the structural aspect of financialization of savings in India.
Capital goods, defense, railway, consumer durable. These are the sectors where you will generally find stocks are a little bit aggressively valued. And then there is one market where you don't go because you don't understand the micro caps, the mini caps, the SMA index. I believe in that market, some stocks have fallen, almost 40, 50 stocks have fallen quite sharply. But despite that correction, I still think it's risky to venture over there. So focus on quality over momentum, high floating stock over low floating stock.
The typical investor is today not interested in debt or fixed income. The typical investor today is interested in equity. While we believe it is quite possible that FD can outperform a small and mid cap, most investors today are really happy with equity as an asset class.
Indeed.
And that is the reality at this point of time. The challenge is, if you add a fundamental problem and valuations being high, it would be very easy for you to say that this would happen.
Right.
Today, you don't have a fundamental problem. You have a valuation and sentiment problem.
Well, the market veterans there on the somewhat that we are about to usher in and what it holds for our markets. The big newsmakers this evening. Reliance Chairman Mukesh Ambani joined Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang for a fireside chat at the Tech Giants AI Summit in Mumbai. In a 30-minute-long conversation, peppered with occasional banter, the two discussed India's potential as a global hub for artificial intelligence. Huang said AI was an extraordinary opportunity for India, adding that Nvidia and Reliance will jointly build artificial intelligence infrastructure in India. Ambani said India and Indians will surprise the world with what we can do with intelligence, just like we did with data.
No one has contributed more, Mukesh, to help India become a high-tech and a deep-tech India. Now, you're at the beginning of that journey. You have great aspirations. I know you have deep aspirations to help India become a deep tech industry. The last thing you need is AI infrastructure. And we're announcing that Reliance and Nvidia are partnering to build AI infrastructure here in India.
India will be one of the biggest intelligence markets, and it's not only our aspirations, but I think it is just the raw gene pool and the raw gene power that exists in India, the youth power that exists in India, that is actually going to... We are in what is the Geo World Center, which is new, which is built by my wife. So if I don't say it's built by my wife, I was instructed to say that.
I'm at her house? Her house is bigger than your house. And I thought your house was pretty big. Just so you know, from Mukesh's house, I could see my house in California.
So, and while I was listening to you, you talked about Nvidia being an exotic place. And I was thinking that when you are in India, I've got to give you my version of what Nvidia means to me. And I was just thinking about it backstage. There's a very important word link which is called Vidya, Vidya, right? And in Indian, in Hindi, as we are all determined to make the best LLM in Hindi, right? In Hindi, Vidya means knowledge.
I knew I named the company right. I knew it.
So
everybody said, Nvidia, what a horrible name. You will never make it.
So what it means...
I knew it. I stuck with it.
So you can take credit for this interpretation.
Gosh.
No problem. Right?
And you can catch that conversation between Mukesh Ambani and Nvidia's Jensen Huang right here on CNBC TV 18. It doesn't get bigger than this, and you don't want to miss this one. Well, top FMCG companies have blamed a shrinking middle class and urban slowdown among a host of other factors impacting sales in the second quarter. They tell CNBC TV 18 that food inflation is a reality for the middle class, adding that they expect urban spending to return as government spends rise. Mangalam standing by now to take us through the commentary from the FMCG sector. Mangalam, what does the demand centimeter say?
Well, absolutely. You know, urban demand coming under pressure is one of those concerns that across the board, a lot of these FMCG leaders have called out. And that's important largely because 2/3 of revenue for the FMCG sector comes in from urban India and 1/3 of volumes comes in from there as well. We've just about seen gradual pickup in rural, and in light of that, urban not doing well may not bode well for the growth of all these FMCG companies. Case in point, Nestle's Suresh Narayanan did say that, you know, shrinking middle class has impacted FMCG sales. We saw a challenging demand environment in the quarter that went by as well, largely on account of muted consumer sentiment. Tata consumer Sunil D'Souza called out that as well, saying that FMCG companies' sales have indicated urban slowdown, and urban has had some impact on flooding and food inflation coming in because of the excess rains that happened during the quarter too. They expect government spending to ramp up and then aid urban demand too. HUL has spoken about moderating urban growth even as there is gradual recovery in rural, and urban slowdown, though they've called out as a temporary phenomenon. Pidilite has said that demand has been impacted in the beginning of this quarter because of excessive rains. First half was impacted by one-offs like elections and some flooding as well. It'll take them some time, at least a quarter, to find out whether there is weakness in consumer sentiment or it was largely because of external challenges itself. United Spirits, their prestige and above volumes also fell by 4%. They cited muted or softer than expected demand environment in consumer sentiment this time around, as a result of which they have seen that decline in their volumes. And Asian Paints too, in a conversation with us, the management had said that the second quarter has been impacted by both monsoons as well as flooding in parts of the country. The question that remains to be answered, is this just a one-off or is this something structural where we are seeing for the next few quarters?
The rural markets have been on the recovery path for some time and continue to recover gradually. And please note that it's about a third of our business comes from rural areas and 2/3 comes from urban areas. In the recent near term, we have seen a certain slowdown in the urban markets. They are continuing to grow, but the growth rate is trending down. And on the whole, therefore, the markets are slightly down compared to where they were, say, a few quarters back. Now, it's a near-term phenomenon, and it could be driven by various macro factors that could be short-term and long-term in nature.
I do think once the entire Kharif, this thing happens, you will see a far more buoyant rural economy. That said, on the urban pace, I wouldn't say that much, but there has been an impact of all the flooding, etc., in various parts of the country. B, food inflation. I think we have not, I would say, seen the full impact. For the middle income person, I mean, food inflation is a reality, and I think that has hit a bit. So, across various categories, if you see, four-wheelers are slowing down. Yeah. Other competitive FMCG companies are talking about stress in urban. So, you look at various indicators, all of them are indicating a little bit of stress.
So, I think this question will really be best answered in January to see, listen, are demand conditions really subdued as a result of external factors, or is there an issue with consumers? I mean, we know that rural markets have been subdued. I mean, it's simple mathematics. Over 3 years, if you look at rural incomes versus rural inflation, there is less money in the hands of the rural consumer. I mean, that's an obvious fact, and only companies that have therefore substantially invested and have a penetration opportunity like ours have done well in rural India.
Well, commentary there coming in from the FMCG sector. Sebi Chief Madhvi Puri Butcher skipped the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee meeting today, citing personal reasons. The panel was set to question the Sebi Chief and review the performance of the market regulator. Sources told us that allegations levelled against her by the Hindenburg report were not going to be on the agenda. Parikshit joins us now with more details. Parikshit, Madhvi Puri Butcher exempting herself from the meeting at the 11th hour today. What next now?
A crucial meeting of the Public Accounts Committee had to be adjourned because Madhvi Puri Bush, the Sebi chief, did not appear before it at 11 a.m. this morning. Now, this meeting was regarding performance review of regulatory bodies such as Sebi and TRAI. The Sebi chief had to come before the committee at 11 a.m. this morning, but at 9:30 a.m., the committee chairperson got a letter from Madhavi Puri Bhuj stating that she will not be able to travel from Mumbai to Delhi for this meeting and she cannot appear in person because of personal exigencies. Now, according to sources, the PAC chairperson, K.C. Venugopal, felt that as she is a woman and she is having some personal trouble right now, therefore she should be allowed to be excused from this meeting. But at the same time, the committee will be calling her again for this crucial performance review, and she could be asked questions about the Hindenburg report as well. There was some difference and some tension between the opposition and the BJP, because the BJP later on said that the PAC chairperson has leaked details of a confidential meeting to the media. They've also been saying that the PAC cannot question the Sebi chief about the Hindenburg report, and this is a matter for the Finance Committee to take up.
Sebi chairperson sought an exemption from appearing in the committee, which we denied. After that, she confirmed her and her team will be present on this committee. Other members of the Sebi that because of the personal exigency, she is not in a position to travel to Delhi. Today morning 9:30, she informed that she is not in a position to travel to Delhi. But being considering a woman's request, we thought that it is better to postpone today's meeting for another day.
हम पार्लियामेंट्री कमिटीज, पीएससी या स्टैंडिंग कमिटी की प्रोसीडिंग की चर्चा बाहर नहीं करते। हमें इस बात की बहुत पीड़ा है कि चेयरमैन मिस्टर वेणुगोपाल ऑफ द पीएससी ने बाहर आकर बाइट भी दे दिया और सारी बातें कह भी दी। आज हम लोग बहुमत में थे पब्लिक अकाउंट्स कमेटी में, बहुमत के हमारे सारे मेंबर्स खड़े हैं और हम लोग की यही आपत्ति थी कि जो सुओ मोटो आपने फैसला किया कि आप क्या सब्जेक्ट लेंगे, वो किससे पूछ के किया।
Meanwhile, FMCG giant ITC beating street estimates on most parameters in Q2, both revenue and net profit topping expectations. Margins at 32.8% have come in below estimates. That's ITC for you. IndusInd Bank reporting a weak set of numbers, missing street estimates on most parameters. Net profit dropped nearly 40%, net interest income up more than 5% on an annual basis. The bank's asset quality deteriorated on a sequential basis. In global earnings, British private lender Barclays registered a 23% jump in net profit in Q3, beating street estimates, largely led by an improvement in core business performance and investment decisions. The company's revenue also stood at £6.5 billion. The lender upgraded its forecast for net interest income for the year. The Union Cabinet has approved a 1,000 crore rupee venture capital fund for the space sector for space startups. The proposed fund will have a deployment period of up to 5 years from the start date. This program will likely benefit 40 companies. The indicative investment will range between 10 to 60 crore rupees. This was a budget announcement. More turbulence for Boeing. The company's factory workers have rejected the plane maker's latest proposal to hike wages by 35% over 4 years. The workers' union said that 64% of its members voted against the proposed deal. This comes a day after the company reported a $6 billion loss in Q3. Well, on to another CNBC TV 18 exclusive tonight. Deutsche Bank remains committed to India's growth story. The bank's CEO for Asia Pacific Europe said that India is an important market for Deutsche Bank, adding that the country will see more deployment of capital. He believes India is poised to grow and will see a doubling of foreign direct investment over the next 5 years.
I would feel very comfortable in saying that we are going to see more capital being deployed into India.
Okay.
Again, for a variety of reasons, many players, corporates, sponsors may have gone the easier way in the previous years, as other countries like China have offered higher growth rates and are now gearing their views more on India. But I think the direction of travel is going to be very clear. We're going to see probably more than doubling in the next 5 years in terms of FDI coming into the country.
That's Deutsche Bank on India. Up next on India Business Hour, US polling season has started. The Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz and family cast their early ballot along with 25 other million voters. Catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on hoax bomb threats have continued to disrupt Indian aviation. Airlines received over 85 hoax threats just today, taking the total tally to over 250 since the beginning of the month. Danish reports on what exactly is going on.
Well, bomb hoax incidents continue to spook Indian airlines, and even today, Akasa Air, Air India, Indigo and Vistara have received over 80 bomb threats. And if you look at the particular breakup, as per sources, Akasa has received 13 bomb threats, and even Indigo has received over 15 bomb threats. Looking at what the government is planning to do, as per sources, the government is considering to amend the Suppression of Unlawful Acts Against Safety of Civil Aviation Act 1982, and the government is also considering to amend the aircraft security rules. So once these rules are amended, then we can expect the Ministry of Civil Aviation to have certain more powers to create an elaborate no-fly list, and then the government is also considering to have a penal, a particular financial penalty on those people that are caught in these incidents. But sources have also told CNBC TV 18 that the government has also traced certain numbers and has asked the social media platforms to block these particular accounts. But if we see, since the beginning of October, airlines till now have received over 250 bomb threats, and this is creating a small financial impact for the airlines. As per reports, Indian Airlines have lost over 600 crore rupees because of such a bomb threat. Because one such a bomb threat usually comes in front of the airline, then we see that a particular protocol is followed in which an aircraft is diverted and it is supposed to land at a particular airport, and hence this leads to enhanced cost for these airlines. But overall, if we see, the government is expected to take a big action on these bomb hoax incidents very soon.
Well, no breather for airlines. The nightmare continues. Now, with less than a week to go for the nomination filing deadline, hectic parleys over seat sharing continue in Maharashtra. The opposition bloc has agreed on a seat sharing formula for most of seats. The Congress, Uddhav Thackeray, Shiv Sena and the NCP Sharad Pawar will contest 85 seats each. A decision on the remaining 33 seats will be taken after further deliberation. Meanwhile, the ruling coalition, which includes the BJP, Ajit Pawar's NCP and Shinde-led Shiv Sena, held a meeting with Amit Shah in the capital to finalize the seat sharing contours. The BJP has already declared candidates for 99 seats, while the Shiv Sena and the NCP have declared candidates for 45 and 38 seats, respectively. Cyclone Dana is expected to make landfall on the coast of Odisha early tomorrow. Various parts of the state have been experiencing heavy rainfall, strong winds and rough sea conditions. Odisha and West Bengal governments have evacuated lakhs of people from coastal areas. At least 7 districts in Odisha have been put on red alert, and 19 NDRF teams have been placed on standby. Here's the latest in the Bengaluru building collapse incident. The death toll has risen to 8 after 6 more bodies were recovered from the site. The under-construction building collapsed in Bengaluru due to heavy rainfall on Tuesday. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has announced compensation of 5 lakh rupees to the families of the deceased. Prime Minister Modi has also announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund to the kin of the deceased and 50,000 rupees to those injured. Tensions in West Asia continue to escalate. Reports say at least 17 people have been killed after Israel attacked a school in a refugee camp in Gaza. Israeli airstrikes have now killed 42 people in northern Gaza. The attack forced the World Health Organization to pause its latest phase of the polio vaccination drive. At least 1 person has died, 5 have been wounded after Israel carried out at least 17 strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs overnight. The Lebanese military has said that an officer was among 3 soldiers that were killed in another Israeli raid in southern Lebanon. Israel claims to have struck 160 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon in the last 24 hours. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken met with Qatar's emir and other officials in a push for a ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S. Department of Justice has sent a letter to Elon Musk's Political Action Committee. The U.S. government has warned that Musk's offer to give away $1 million per day to a registered voter may be illegal. Musk, who is the world's richest man, has been actively campaigning for Donald Trump in his presidential bid against Kamala Harris. Over the weekend, the owner of Tesla and X offered to give away prizes to American voters who signed a conservative, e-leaning petition. Nearly 25 million have cast their vote in early voting in the U.S. presidential election. This includes Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz and his family, who cast an early ballot in Minnesota. The latest Wall Street Journal poll indicates Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has a slight edge over his Democratic rival Kamala Harris. As for the poll, Trump leads with 47%, while voters favor Trump's policies. They question his stability. In case of Harris, she receives the worst job ratings. Well, do remember to tune into CNBC TV 18. We kickstart our coverage of the U.S. elections right here. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching the news. We'll continue right after this short break.